Daniel Williams stepped out of his black sedan and stared up at the tall glass building of Children's Hope Hospital. The autumn wind whipped around him, carrying the scent of fallen leaves and something else he couldn't quite place. Maybe it was the smell of antiseptic drifting from the hospital's entrance. He pulled his expensive coat tighter and checked his watch. This visit was just another item on his busy schedule, another box to tick for his company's charity work. At 35, Daniel had built TechFlow Solutions from nothing into a multi-million-dollar company. Everyone called him successful. His office walls were covered with awards and photos of him shaking hands with important people. But walking toward the hospital entrance, he felt the familiar weight of loneliness settling on his shoulders like an old, heavy blanket. The hospital lobby buzzed with activity. Nurses in colorful scrubs hurried past, their shoes squeaking on the polished floors. Families clustered together in small groups, some laughing, others speaking in worried whispers. Daniel felt out of place in his sharp business suit among all these people who seemed to belong here. "Mr. Williams?" A cheerful woman in a blue blazer approached him. "I'm Janet, the volunteer coordinator. Thank you so much for coming today." Daniel shook her hand and forced a smile. "Happy to be here." The words felt hollow, but he'd said them so many times they came automatically. Janet led him through a maze of hallways decorated with children's artwork. Bright paintings of rainbows and stick-figure families covered the walls, making the sterile hospital corridors feel more alive. "We're so grateful for TechFlow's support," Janet chattered as they walked. "The new computer lab has been a huge hit with the kids." They passed several rooms filled with children of different ages. Some were connected to machines with blinking lights. Others were playing games or reading books. Daniel nodded and made appropriate comments, but his mind was already planning his next meeting. "And this is our activity center," Janet said, pushing open a set of double doors. The room was larger than Daniel expected, with high ceilings and big windows that let in plenty of natural light. About a dozen children were scattered around the space. Some were building with colorful blocks, others were painting at small easels. In one corner, a group was gathered around a tablet, giggling at something on the screen. But Daniel's attention was caught by a small figure sitting alone by the window. A little girl, maybe 8 or 9 years old, sat in a wheelchair facing the glass. Her dark hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and she wore a bright yellow hospital gown with tiny flower patterns. She wasn't playing or talking to anyone. She was just watching. Daniel found himself staring at her. There was something about the way she sat so still, so separate from the other children, that made his chest feel tight. "That's Lily," Janet said softly, following his gaze. "She's been with us for about 2 months now. Sweet kid, but she doesn't join in much anymore." Before Daniel could ask what Janet meant, the girl turned her head. Her eyes, dark and serious, met his across the room. For a moment, they just looked at each other. Then, to Daniel's surprise, she began wheeling her chair toward them. "Excuse me," Lily said as she approached. Her voice was clear and confident, not what Daniel expected from someone who looked so small and fragile. "Are you the computer man?" Daniel glanced at Janet, confused. Well, my company donated computers, if that's what you mean." Lily nodded seriously. "That's what I thought. Everyone was talking about the computer man coming today." She studied his face with the intense curiosity that only children possess. "You look sad." The direct observation caught Daniel completely off guard. Adults didn't usually comment on his emotional state, and certainly not with such blunt honesty. I'm fine," he managed. "Adults always say that," Lily replied with a small shrug. "Even when they're not." Janet cleared her throat. "Lily, this is Mr. Williams. He's here for a tour of the hospital." "Nice to meet you, Lily," Daniel said, crouching down so he was closer to her eye level. Up close, he could see that despite her serious expression, there was something bright and determined in her eyes. "Can I ask you something?" Lily said. "Sure, can you teach me to dance?" The question hit Daniel like a physical blow. He blinked, certain he'd misheard. "I'm sorry, what?" "Can you teach me to dance?" Lily repeated, her voice growing more excited. "I saw people dancing on TV yesterday, and it looked so pretty. The way they moved together, like they were telling a story without words. I used to dance before." She gestured toward her wheelchair without finishing the sentence. Daniel felt his throat tighten. He looked at Janet for help, but she seemed just as surprised by the request. "Lily, I don't really know how to dance," he said honestly. "That's okay," Lily said quickly. "Maybe we could learn together." The simple question hung in the air between them. Daniel stared at this small girl who had just asked him for something no one had ever asked for before. Not money, not a business favor, not his connections or influence. She wanted him to teach her to dance. I don't think... Daniel started, but then he stopped. Something in Lily's expression made him pause. It wasn't just hope he saw there, but a kind of desperate brightness, like someone holding on to the last bit of light in a dark room. Please? Lily whispered. I know I can't stand up like other dancers, but maybe there's a way. Maybe dancing isn't just about legs. Daniel felt something crack inside his chest. When was the last time someone had asked him for something that wasn't about business? When was the last time anyone had looked at him with such pure hope? Daniel swallowed hard. I suppose I could try to figure something out. Lily's face lit up like sunrise. Really? You'd do that? I can't promise I'll be any good at it, Daniel warned. I haven't danced since... well, maybe never, actually. That's perfect, Lily said, clapping her hands together. We'll both be beginners. Janet looked between them with amazement. Lily hasn't shown this much enthusiasm about anything since she arrived. When could we start? Lily asked eagerly. Daniel found himself smiling, really smiling for the first time in months. How about next week? Same time? Yes. Lily practically bounced in her wheelchair. I'll practice moving my arms until then. As Janet led Daniel away to continue the tour, he kept glancing back at Lily. She had returned to her spot by the window, but now she was moving her arms in small, graceful circles, lost in her own world of music only she could hear. Walking back to his car later, Daniel couldn't shake the image of those dark eyes full of hope. He'd made a promise to a little girl who believed dancing was possible even from a wheelchair. Now he had to figure out how to keep that promise. For the first time in years, Daniel had something to look forward to that had nothing to do with profit margins or board meetings. He had a dance to learn. Daniel stared at his laptop screen for the third time that evening, feeling completely out of his depth. The search bar showed wheelchair dancing basics, and below it, dozens of video thumbnails featuring people in wheelchairs moving gracefully to music. He'd never felt so unprepared for anything in his life. It had been 6 days since he met Lily at the hospital. 6 days since he'd made a promise that seemed impossible to keep. He was a businessman, not a dance teacher. The closest he'd come to dancing was the awkward swaying at company holiday parties. And even then, he usually found excuses to avoid it. But every time he thought about backing out, he remembered Lily's face. The way her eyes had lit up when he said yes. The way she'd started moving her arms by the window, lost in her own imaginary dance. He couldn't let her down. He clicked on a video titled, Adaptive Dance for Beginners. A woman with a warm smile appeared on screen, sitting in a wheelchair in what looked like a dance studio. Dancing isn't about what your body can't do, she said. It's about expressing yourself with whatever movement you have. Daniel watched, taking notes like he was preparing for a business presentation. The woman showed simple arm movements, how rhythm could be felt and shared, how dance was really about connection and joy rather than perfect technique. By the time he finished watching several videos, it was past midnight. The next day dragged by slower than usual. Daniel found himself checking the clock every few minutes, his stomach filled with an odd mixture of nerves and excitement. He'd rearranged his schedule, moving 2 important meetings so he could get to the hospital by 3 o'clock. When he finally walked into the activity center, Lily was waiting by the window again. But this time she wasn't alone. A nurse was sitting beside her and they were looking at something on a tablet together. Mr. Williams, Lily called out as soon as she saw him. She wheeled over quickly, her face beaming. I've been practicing all week, look. She began moving her arms in smooth, flowing motions, her fingers dancing through the air like she was conducting an invisible orchestra. It was simple, but there was something beautiful about the way she moved, something that made Daniel's chest feel warm. That's wonderful, Daniel said, and he meant it. You're already better than me. I watched videos too, Lily admitted with a grin. Nurse Kim helped me find some on the tablet. Did you know there are dancers who perform sitting down? They're amazing. Nurse Kim, a young woman with kind eyes, smiled at Daniel. She's been talking about nothing but dancing for a week. It's the most excited I've seen her since she arrived. Daniel felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. This wasn't just about keeping a promise anymore. This little girl was counting on him for something important, something that was bringing light back into her world. So, Daniel said, pulling a chair over to sit facing Lily. I guess we should start with the basics. I watched some videos too, and it seems like dancing is mostly about feeling the music and moving with it. Do we have music? Lily asked. Daniel pulled out his phone. I downloaded some songs that seemed good for dancing. Not too fast, not too slow. He scrolled through his playlist, which he'd spent an embarrassing amount of time creating. How about this one? Soft piano music began playing, joined by gentle strings. Lily closed her eyes and listened for a moment, a small smile spreading across her face. It sounds like floating, she said. Okay, Daniel said, feeling awkward but determined. Let's start with what you were doing. Show me those arm movements again. Lily began moving her arms and Daniel tried to copy her. His movements were stiff and uncertain while hers flowed like water. She giggled when she saw his attempts. You're thinking too hard, she said. Just feel the music. Like this. She closed her eyes and let her arms sway with the melody, her whole upper body moving in gentle waves. Daniel watched her, amazed. Here was this little girl who had every reason to be sad or angry, teaching him about feeling music and moving with joy. He closed his eyes too and tried to let go of his self-consciousness. Slowly, his movements became more natural. Not graceful, not professional, but real. When he opened his eyes, Lily was watching him with delight. See? You can dance, she said. It's not about being perfect. It's about being happy. For the next hour, they experimented with different movements. Daniel learned that Lily could spin her wheelchair in smooth circles, creating beautiful patterns across the floor. She taught him how to use his hands to tell stories in the air, how to make his arms look like branches swaying in the wind or birds taking flight. I used to take real dance classes, Lily said during a quiet moment between songs, before the accident. I loved ballet the most. I dreamed of being on a big stage someday. Daniel felt his heart squeeze. What happened? He asked gently. Lily's expression grew serious. A car hit us when my mom was picking me up from school. She's okay, but my legs. She shrugged, trying to look casual, but Daniel could see the sadness underneath. The doctors say maybe someday I might walk again, but maybe not. It's hard to hope for something that might never happen. But you still love dancing, Daniel observed. I thought I didn't anymore, Lily admitted. I thought dancing was over for me. But watching those videos, seeing other people dance in wheelchairs, it made me realize that maybe dancing isn't really about legs at all. Maybe it's about the feeling inside. Daniel nodded, thinking about his own life. I think I stopped feeling things inside a long time ago, he said without thinking, then immediately regretted being so honest with a child. But Lily just looked at him with those wise, dark eyes. Why, I guess I got so busy with work and making money that I forgot about other things. I don't have a family, don't have friends really. Just business partners and employees. That sounds lonely, Lily said simply. It is, Daniel admitted, but I didn't realize how lonely until I met you. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, watching other children play across the room. Then Lily reached over and touched Daniel's hand. Maybe we can help each other remember how to feel happy things, she said. You can teach me new dance moves and I can teach you how to not be so lonely. Daniel looked down at her small hand on his and felt something shift inside his chest, like a door opening after being locked for years. I'd like that, he said. Good, Lily said with a bright smile, because I have lots of ideas for dances we could try, and I think you need more practice with the spinning part. Daniel laughed, a real laugh that came from somewhere deep inside. I definitely need more practice with everything. As their session came to an end, Daniel realized something had changed. The hospital didn't feel like just another obligation anymore. Lily didn't feel like just another charity case. This felt real, important in a way that his business meetings never did. Same time next week? He asked as he prepared to leave. Absolutely, Lily said. And Mr. Williams? Thank you for keeping your promise. Walking back to his car, Daniel found himself humming the piano melody they'd danced to. People on the street gave him odd looks, seeing a businessman in an expensive suit humming children's music. But he didn't care. For the first time in years, Daniel was looking forward to something that had nothing to do with profit margins or quarterly reports. He was looking forward to dancing with a little girl who was teaching him that joy could be found in the most unexpected places. That night, instead of working late in his empty office, Daniel went home early and spent the evening learning more dance moves to share with his new teacher. 3 weeks had passed since Daniel and Lily started their dancing sessions, and the hospital's activity room had become Daniel's favorite place in the world. Every Tuesday at 3 o'clock, he would walk through those double doors and find Lily waiting for him, usually with a new idea or move she wanted to try. Today was different, though. Lily had been quieter than usual, her usual bright chatter replaced by thoughtful silence as they warmed up with their arm exercises. "Everything okay today?" Daniel asked, matching her gentle, swaying movements to the soft jazz music playing from his phone. Lily nodded, but her heart wasn't in it. After a few minutes, she stopped moving altogether and looked at Daniel with those serious dark eyes he'd come to know so well. "Can I tell you a secret?" she asked. "Of course. I used to dream about dancing on a real stage, like in front of lots of people." Her voice was barely above a whisper. "I had this picture in my head of wearing a beautiful costume with sparkles, and the lights would be bright and everyone would clap when I finished." Daniel felt his chest tighten. "That sounds like a wonderful dream." "But it was a stupid dream," Lily said quickly. "I know that now. People in wheelchairs don't perform on stages. That's for people who can walk and jump and spin around." "Says who?" Daniel asked, his voice sharper than he intended. Lily looked surprised. "Well, everyone knows that. Real dancers use their whole bodies." Daniel stopped moving and turned his chair to face her directly. "Lily, what we've been doing these past few weeks, is that not real dancing?" "I guess, but it's different. It's just for fun, not for performing." Daniel pulled out his phone and started searching for something. "I want to show you something." After a moment, he found what he was looking for and turned the screen toward Lily. The video showed a woman in a wheelchair on a huge stage, moving with such grace and power that the audience was completely silent, mesmerized. Her arms told stories. Her chair became part of the dance, and when she finished, the applause was thunderous. Lily's eyes grew wide. She's amazing. Her name is Alana Rodriguez. She's one of the most famous adaptive dancers in the world. She performs in theaters and on television shows." Daniel scrolled through more videos. "Look, here's a whole company of dancers, some in wheelchairs, some not, all performing together." Lily watched, her mouth slightly open. "They're all so beautiful. The way they move together, it's like they're speaking the same language." "Dancing is a language," Daniel said, "and you, my friend, are becoming very fluent in it." For the first time that day, Lily smiled. "Do you really think I could learn to dance like that?" "I think you could learn to dance like you," Daniel said, "which is even better." That afternoon, instead of their usual practice, they spent time watching videos of adaptive dancers from around the world. Lily pointed out moves she wanted to try, and Daniel found himself taking mental notes. He was in over his head, but he'd never backed down from a challenge in business, and he wasn't about to start now. The following week, Daniel arrived at the hospital with a surprise. "Lily, I want you to meet someone," he said, stepping aside to reveal a woman in her 30s with long black hair and the brightest smile Lily had ever seen. She was in a wheelchair but moved with such confidence and grace that she seemed to glide rather than roll. "Hi there," the woman said, wheeling over to Lily. "I'm Carmen Rodriguez, and I hear you've been learning to dance." Lily looked from Carmen to Daniel, her eyes wide with excitement and nervousness. Are you a real dancer?" Carmen laughed, a warm sound that filled the whole room. "As real as they come. I've been performing for 15 years and I still get nervous before every show." "That's how you know it matters to you." "Daniel thought maybe you could teach us some things," Lily said, then quickly added, "I mean, if you want to. We don't know what we're doing, really." "From what I saw when I walked in, you two are doing just fine," Carmen said. "But I'd love to show you some techniques that might help." "Daniel told me you're interested in performing someday." Lily shot a grateful look at Daniel. "Maybe. I'm not sure I'm good enough." "Honey, being good enough isn't about being perfect. It's about sharing something true with people. And from what I can see, you've got plenty of truth to share." Over the next hour, Carmen taught them techniques that Daniel never could have imagined. She showed Lily how to use the momentum of her wheelchair to create flowing movements, how to make her arms and upper body work together to tell stories, how to connect with music on a deeper level. But more than the technical skills, Carmen gave Lily something Daniel couldn't: the confidence of seeing someone who looked like her doing what she dreamed of doing. "You have natural rhythm," Carmen told Lily as they practiced a sequence together. "And more importantly, you have heart. Technical skills can be learned, but heart is something you're born with. Daniel watched from the sidelines, amazed at the transformation in Lily. She wasn't just moving anymore. She was dancing with purpose and joy. But he also noticed how Carmen kept including him in the lesson, making sure he felt part of the process. "Your turn, Daniel," Carmen said during a break. "Let's see what you've been working on." Daniel felt his cheeks redden. "I'm just here to help Lily. I'm not really a dancer." "Nobody's really a dancer until they decide they are," Carmen said with a grin. "Come on, don't leave your partner hanging." Lily wheeled over and took Daniel's hand. "Please, we're a team, remember?" Looking into her hopeful face, Daniel couldn't refuse. He joined them in the center of the room, and soon all three of them were moving together to a gentle waltz. Daniel felt awkward at first, but gradually relaxed as he realized no one was judging him. They were all just enjoying the music and the movement together. After Carmen left, promising to come back next week, Lily and Daniel sat by the window sharing a snack from the vending machine. "She's amazing," Lily said, still glowing from the lesson. "Did you see how she made it look so easy? Like her wheelchair was just another part of the dance." "She was pretty incredible," Daniel agreed. "But you know what? You kept up with her perfectly. You're getting really good at this." Lily beamed, then grew thoughtful. "Daniel, can I ask you something personal?" Daniel's stomach tightened slightly. "Sure. Do you have a family? Like parents or brothers and sisters?" "You never talk about anyone." Daniel was quiet for a long moment, staring out the window at the parking lot below. "No," he said finally. "No family. What happened to them?" "I never really had them to begin with," Daniel said, surprised by his own honesty. "I grew up in foster care. Different families, different houses, but never anywhere that felt like home." Lily's expression grew soft. "That sounds really hard." It was. "But it taught me to rely on myself, which helped me build my business." Daniel tried to smile, but it felt forced. "I learned not to need other people." "Is that why you seem so lonely sometimes?" Lily asked with the direct honesty that only children possess. Daniel felt something crack inside his chest. "Maybe. I guess I built walls around myself to keep from getting hurt again. If you don't let people get close, they can't disappoint you or leave you." Lily was quiet for a moment, spinning one wheel of her chair in a small circle. "You know what I think about walls?" she said finally. "What?" "I think they keep bad things out, but they also keep good things out. Like sunshine and laughter and people who might want to be your friend." She looked at him seriously. "If you build the walls too high, you end up locked inside alone." Daniel stared at this 8-year-old girl who had just described his entire adult life with perfect clarity. "When did you get so wise?" he asked. "When I started dancing with you," Lily said simply. "Dancing teaches you that moving together is better than moving alone, even when you're scared of falling." That evening, driving home in his expensive car to his empty apartment, Daniel thought about walls. About the ones he'd built and the ones Lily was helping him tear down, brick by brick, with every shared smile and every dance step. For the first time since he was a child himself, Daniel was beginning to understand what it might feel like to have a family. It wasn't what he'd expected. It wasn't a traditional house with parents and siblings. Instead, it was Tuesday afternoons in a hospital activity room, learning to move with joy alongside a little girl who saw possibilities where others saw limitations. Maybe, Daniel thought as he pulled into his parking space, it was time to consider lowering those walls just a little bit more. Daniel was reviewing quarterly reports when his phone buzzed. It was a text from Lily, which was unusual because she typically called or waited to talk during their Tuesday visits. His stomach dropped as he read the message. "Can't dance today. Something happened. Don't come." He stared at the screen, his mind racing. In the 6 weeks since they'd started their friendship, Lily had never missed a session. She'd danced through headaches, through days when she felt sad about missing her old life, even through the time she had a cold. Something was very wrong. Daniel closed his laptop and headed for his car. Reports could wait. When he arrived at the hospital, he found Lily's room unusually quiet. Through the small window in the door, he could see her lying in bed, staring at the ceiling. Her wheelchair sat empty in the corner. A woman who looked like an older version of Lily sat in the chair beside the bed, her eyes red from crying. Daniel knocked softly and stepped inside. "Hi," he said uncertainly. "I'm Daniel. I've been teaching Lily to dance." The woman looked up, and Daniel could see where Lily got her expressive eyes. "Oh," she said, standing quickly. "You're the man from the computer company." Lily talks about you all the time. I'm Rosa, her mother. Mom, I told him not to come, Lily said without looking away from the ceiling. I was worried about you, Daniel said, pulling a chair closer to the bed. What's going on? Lily finally turned her head toward him and Daniel's heart broke. Her usual bright spirit was nowhere to be seen. The doctors did some tests, she said quietly. They think maybe I could get better. Maybe I could walk again someday. Daniel felt confusion wash over him. But that's wonderful news, isn't it? You'd think so, Rosa said, her voice thick with emotion. But the treatment they're talking about is very expensive. Special therapy, surgery, months of recovery. Our insurance covers some of it, but not nearly enough. We can't afford it, Lily said, turning back to stare at the ceiling. And even if we could, the doctors say there's no guarantee it would work. I might go through all that pain and still never walk again. Daniel felt like someone had punched him in the stomach. Here was hope and heartbreak wrapped together in the cruelest way possible. How much? He asked quietly. Rosa named a figure that made Daniel's chest tighten. It was a lot of money for a single mother working as a school cafeteria worker. But for Daniel, it was less than what he'd spent on his car. I could help, Daniel said immediately. I could pay for the treatment. No, Lily said sharply, sitting up in bed. Absolutely not. Daniel looked surprised. Why not? If there's a chance you could walk again. Because I don't want to owe you anything, Lily said, her voice getting louder. I don't want you to think you have to fix me. I'm not broken, Daniel. I'm just different. I never said you were broken, Daniel said, hurt by her tone, but that's what you're thinking, isn't it? Poor little girl in the wheelchair. Let me throw money at her problem and make it go away. Tears were starting to run down Lily's cheeks. What happens to our friendship then? What happens when I'm not the sad kid you feel sorry for anymore? The words hit Daniel harder than any business criticism ever had. Lily, that's not... I don't feel sorry for you. I care about you. Rich people always say that, Lily said, and Daniel could hear years of disappointment in her young voice. But caring and paying are different things. If you pay for this, then everything changes. I become your charity case instead of your friend. Daniel sat back in his chair, stunned. He'd thought he was offering help, but Lily saw it as something else entirely. Something that would change the pure connection they'd built together. Rosa spoke up softly. Maybe we should all take some time to think about this. It's been a very emotional day. Daniel nodded, still reeling from Lily's words. I'll give you space, he said, standing up. But Lily, whatever happens, whatever you decide, I want you to know that you're not my charity case. You're my friend. The best friend I've ever had. Lily looked at him with tears in her eyes but didn't respond. The next few days were the longest of Daniel's life. He threw himself into work, trying to distract himself from the hurt and confusion. But even his business couldn't hold his attention the way it used to. On Thursday, he was in the middle of the biggest meeting of the quarter when his phone rang. It was the hospital. His assistant tried to signal him to ignore it, but something made him answer. Mr. Williams? It was Nurse Kim. I'm sorry to bother you, but Lily asked me to call. She wants to see you. Daniel was out of the conference room before Kim finished the sentence, leaving his board members staring after him in shock. He found Lily back in the activity room, sitting by the window. But instead of her usual spot facing outside, she was turned toward the room, watching other children play. You came, she said when she saw him. Of course I came. Lily was quiet for a long moment. I'm sorry for what I said. It was mean. Daniel sat down across from her. You weren't mean. You were honest. That's one of the things I love most about you. I was scared, Lily admitted. When the doctor said I might be able to walk again, I got this picture in my head of being normal again. Of dancing on stages like I used to dream about. But then I realized that if I could walk, maybe you wouldn't want to be my friend anymore. Why would you think that? Because why would someone like you want to spend time with a regular kid? You only noticed me because I was in a wheelchair, because I was special in a sad way. Daniel felt his heart breaking all over again. Lily, I didn't become your friend because you're in a wheelchair. I became your friend because you asked me to teach you something I didn't know how to do, and then you ended up teaching me instead. What did I teach you? How to be happy, Daniel said simply. How to look forward to something that isn't about work or money. How to care about someone else more than I care about myself. Lily wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Really? Really? And whether you're walking, rolling, or flying around in a rocket ship, that's not going to change. For the first time in days, Lily smiled. I don't think they make rocket ship wheelchairs. Well, maybe we should invent them, Daniel said, smiling back. They sat together in comfortable silence for a while, watching the other children play. Finally, Lily spoke up. My mom and I talked a lot about the treatment. We decided we're going to try it, but we're going to find a way to pay for it ourselves. Maybe it'll take longer. Maybe we'll have to do fundraisers and payment plans, but we want to do it our way. Daniel nodded, understanding. That's brave of you. I learned from a friend of mine that being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you do the right thing even when you are scared. Sounds like a smart friend, Daniel said. The smartest, Lily agreed. He also taught me that walls keep good things out, remember? Daniel felt something shift in his chest. I remember. So I was thinking maybe we could keep dancing together during the treatment. I might not be able to move as much some days, but maybe you could dance for both of us when I can't? I would be honored to dance for both of us, Daniel said, and meant every word. That evening, Daniel returned to his office to find his assistant waiting with a stack of messages and a very concerned expression. The board wants to see you first thing Monday morning, she said. They're not happy about you walking out of the quarterly meeting. Daniel looked at the messages, most of them from board members expressing their concern about his priorities and his distraction from company business. For a moment, the old Daniel would have panicked, would have started planning how to smooth things over and refocus entirely on work. But sitting there in his expensive office, all he could think about was Lily's courage in choosing the harder path, because it was the right one. Maybe it was time for him to be brave too. Monday morning arrived with gray skies and the kind of cold rain that made everything feel serious. Daniel sat in his car outside the TechFlow building, staring up at the glass tower he'd built from nothing. In a few minutes, he would walk into that boardroom and face 12 people who thought he'd lost his focus. Maybe they were right. 3 months ago, the most important thing in his life was quarterly profits. Now the most important thing was making sure he didn't miss his Tuesday afternoon dance session with a little girl who'd taught him what friendship really meant. His phone buzzed with a text from Lily. Good luck today. Remember, being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. Daniel smiled, tucked his phone away, and walked into the building. The boardroom was exactly as he'd left it the week before, except now the faces around the table looked more concerned than confused. Robert Chen, the chairman of the board, didn't waste time with pleasantries. Daniel, we need to talk about your recent behavior. Walking out of quarterly meetings, canceling important client dinners, spending company time on hospital visits. The other board members are worried about your commitment to TechFlow. Daniel looked around the table at people he'd worked with for years. People who'd helped him build this company into something successful. Good people, but people who measured everything in profit and loss. You're right, Daniel said, his voice steady. My priorities have changed. Robert leaned forward. We're hoping you'll refocus on what matters. TechFlow needs leadership that's completely dedicated to growth and profit. What if I told you I found something more important than profit? Daniel asked. The room grew uncomfortably quiet. Margaret Torres, the CFO, spoke first. Daniel, we're concerned you might be having some kind of breakdown. Maybe you need a vacation, some time to get perspective. I have perspective, Daniel said. For the first time in my life, I have real perspective. He stood up and walked to the window, looking down at the city below. I built this company because I thought success would make me happy. But I've been successful for years and I was miserable. Lonely, empty, going through the motions. And now? Robert asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer wouldn't be what he wanted to hear. Now I've learned what actually matters. Connection. Helping people not for tax breaks or publicity, but because it's right. Having someone in your life who makes you want to be better. Daniel turned back to face the room. I'm starting a foundation. The Hope and Movement Foundation. Dedicated to helping kids with disabilities access adaptive sports and dance programs. I'm donating half my shares in TechFlow to fund it. The silence that followed was deafening. Finally, Robert found his voice. Daniel, that's a very generous gesture, but we can't let personal relationships affect business decisions of this magnitude. This isn't a business decision, Daniel said. This is a life decision. And if the board can't support it, then maybe it's time for new leadership at TechFlow. Margaret looked shocked. Are you threatening to resign? I'm saying I found my real purpose. And I'm going to follow it whether TechFlow supports me or not. 2 hours later, Daniel walked out of the building as the former CEO of TechFlow Solutions and the founder of the Hope and Movement Foundation. Half the board had voted to accept his resignation. The other half had begged him to reconsider. But Daniel felt lighter than he had in years. He drove straight to the hospital. Lily was in the physical therapy room when he arrived, working with a therapist on exercises designed to strengthen her back and core muscles. She'd started the treatment 2 weeks earlier, and while progress was slow, there were encouraging signs. "Daniel," she called when she saw him. "Watch this!" With the therapist supporting her, Lily managed to stand for nearly 30 seconds, her legs shaking with effort but holding her weight. When she finally sat back down, she was beaming. "That was amazing," Daniel said, and meant every word. "How did it feel?" "Scary and wonderful at the same time," Lily said. "Like dancing, but different." The therapist, a kind woman named Dr. Patel, smiled at Daniel. "Lily's been telling me about your dance sessions. She says they've been helping with her balance and core strength." "Really?" "Absolutely. The rhythm work, the upper body movements, it's all contributing to her progress. Whatever you two have been doing, keep doing it." After the therapy session, Daniel and Lily went to their usual spot in the activity room. Other children were playing around them, but they'd created their own little space by the window where they could practice without feeling self-conscious. "I have something to tell you," Daniel said as they began their warm-up stretches. "Me too," Lily said. "You first." Daniel told her about the board meeting, about his decision to leave TechFlow and start the foundation. Lily listened with wide eyes, occasionally gasping or nodding. "You gave up your whole company for the foundation?" she asked when he finished. "I didn't give it up. I just decided it wasn't the most important thing in my life anymore." "What's the most important thing now?" Daniel looked at this brave little girl who'd changed everything for him. "Friendship, love, helping people discover what they're capable of. Things that matter long after quarterly reports are forgotten." Lily was quiet for a moment, then broke into the biggest smile he'd ever seen. "That's what I wanted to tell you too." "What?" "I've been thinking about what I want to do when I get older. Before I thought maybe I'd be a dancer if I could walk again, or maybe a teacher if I couldn't. But now I know what I really want." "What's that?" "I want to help start programs like yours. I want to teach other kids that being different doesn't mean you can't chase your dreams. I want to show them that dancing isn't about what your body can do. It's about what your heart wants to say." Daniel felt his throat tighten with emotion. "Lily, that's beautiful. And I want to do it with you if you'll let me. We make a good team. The best team," Daniel agreed. 6 months later, Daniel stood at the back of a small auditorium filled with families, therapists, and hospital staff. On the stage, 12 children of various ages and abilities were performing the first annual Hope and Movement Foundation showcase. Some of the children were in wheelchairs, others used walkers or crutches, and a few could walk but faced other challenges. All of them were dancing with joy and confidence, telling their stories through movement and music. But Daniel's eyes were fixed on the center of the stage, where Lily moved with grace and determination. She'd progressed enough in her treatment to stand with support for longer periods, and she incorporated both wheelchair and standing movements into her routine. She wasn't performing alone. Carmen, the professional dancer who'd become their regular instructor, danced alongside her, and Daniel found himself swaying in place, following movements they'd practiced together dozens of times. When the performance ended and the applause filled the room, Lily looked out into the audience until she found Daniel. She pointed at him and then at her heart, a gesture they'd developed that meant, "This is for you." Daniel wiped tears from his eyes and pointed back, returning the message. After the show, families gathered in the lobby for refreshments and celebration. Daniel found himself surrounded by parents thanking him for creating a program that had given their children confidence and joy. "You know what's funny?" Lily said, rolling up beside him during a quiet moment. "What's that?" "I used to think the only way to be happy was to get back everything I'd lost. My old legs, my old life, my old dreams. And now I think maybe I didn't lose anything. Maybe I just found a different way to be exactly who I was meant to be." Daniel knelt down so they were at eye level. "You know what you taught me?" "What?" "That sometimes the best things in life come from the most unexpected places. 3 months ago, I was a successful, miserable businessman. Now I'm a foundation director who barely knows what he's doing, but I've never been happier." Lily grinned. "Want to know a secret?" "Always. I think the universe knew we both needed a friend. It just took a little while to get us in the same room. Daniel laughed. The kind of deep, genuine laugh that comes from pure happiness. Well then, I guess we better not waste this second chance. Deal, Lily said, holding out her hand for a shake. Deal, Daniel agreed, taking her small hand in his larger one. As the evening wound down and families began heading home, Daniel realized that he'd finally found what he'd been searching for his whole life without even knowing it. Not just success or recognition, but purpose. Not just achievement, but connection. Not just a life, but a family. And it all started with a little girl who'd asked him to teach her how to dance, then turned around and taught him how to live.